Welcome to the Performance Code, the official podcast of PCodeNation.com and the Performance Code community. Tune in each week as top performers and fitness experts share their tactics and strategies to get you on the fast track to achieving maximum results. And now your host, Justin Schollard.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Justin Schollard here, and you're listening to episode number 19 of the Performance Code podcast. And I want to thank you again for tuning in each and every week. You know, it is my hope that I can give you practical, actionable tips and advice that you can take to the gym with you right now. You can take to the kitchen with you right now to make a real improvement in your health and your fitness. Because yeah, we want to be healthy. That is 100% sure. But we also want to look good. We want to feel good. We want to feel confident if we're going to take our shirt off, or we're going to go to the beach and we're going to be in a bathing suit. Whatever life has in store for us, we want to make sure that we are prepared as possible to be our best. And that comes down to what we eat. And so what we're going to talk about today, guys, is what I like to call being a conscious carnivore. Because let's face it, I mean, first of all, not all calories are created equal. In other words, the beef that I buy at Whole Foods Market that's pasture raised from a local farm is going to be a whole lot different than the beef that I get in a burger from McDonald's, right? I think a lot of times when people try to generalize diets, paleo or Atkins or vegan or vegetarian or whatever, the devil's in the details, and there's a lot of nuances in the type of calorie we're getting, not just a general blanket statement on red meat is bad, chicken is bad, sugar is bad. The reality is that there's two things to consider when it comes to our calories, and it's type and it's timing, right? Type and timing are the two big things we want to be conscious of when we're eating. And so let's just talk about protein to start, because I was just having an introductory session today with somebody at the gym, and her issue was she had her mind made up that eating meat more than once a day was bad for her. And now listen, you know, I'm not going to sit here and debate any sort of moral issues that someone might have with eating meat multiple times a day. To be honest with you, I get it. I often struggle with the reality of, you know, just eating another animal. What can we do to make ourselves feel better about that choice and also make it as healthy as possible, and most importantly, in service of our goals? If we're going to be a conscious carnivore, what I would suggest is, let's just say we only want to eat meat once a day. That's fine. If we're going to get our meat, let's spend the extra dough, let's go the extra mile and make sure that the meats that we're getting are as high quality as possible, and the animal that we got it from was slaughtered in the most humane way possible. And a good way to ensure that is to go for pastured meat. So for example, if you're getting eggs or you're getting chicken, you want to go for pastured meats, right? And what is pastured? You got to be careful that you don't get caught up in labeling of the packages, because the package might say cage free, free range, but that doesn't necessarily mean pasture raised. And pastured, if we're talking about chickens or fowl, means that literally the animal was out to pasture. It was literally eating off of the land in the sun, pooping in the grass, and contributing to the environment that it is living in, and not just in a barn, in a cage, fed antibiotics and steroids, or force fed to grow just to go to slaughter, right? So we want to make sure that we're not getting animals from condensed animal feeding operations. I think they're called CAFOs, if you've heard of those. And literally they just stuff animals in cages, and it's pretty disgusting. And unfortunately, a lot of our meats come from these feeding operations. And so we want to make sure that we're not supporting that, and that we're voting with our dollar to more sustainable, humane sources of protein. So that's why a couple of things to look out for, like I said, pastured is always a good one. And that goes for pig, chickens, cows, you name it. If they're pastured, that's going to be a good step in the right direction. That means they're probably from a smaller farm, and they were probably raised with a better quality of life. Another thing to look for, especially in terms of beef, guys, is grass-fed. And the reason is because think about where cows come from. I mean, they're not, I know they're very domesticated, but they're not necessarily corn feeding animals or soybean feeding animals, right? They wouldn't naturally want to eat soybeans and corn, but because our government subsidizes soybeans and corn, it's cheap, and so farmers tend to just feed their livestock soybeans and corn. Now, of course, the problem with that is that it's foreign to the animal's digestive system, and it often putrefies in their gut. So whenever we can get a grass-fed cow, it's just more in line with the animal's biology, and it's just going to be a higher quality meat. Now, I'm going to give you a little warning. If you're not used to grass-fed beef, it does have a different taste. It tends to be leaner, and it tastes a little different. Now, I like it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I know it's a healthier option, maybe because I know the cow was out in pastures eating and grazing like it should be, and not just stuffed into a cage and fed toxic foods to its system. There's something psychological about that, for me at least. But I've grown to like the taste of the grass-fed meat, so I definitely encourage you guys to try that. And then as far as eggs go, and it's the same thing with chicken, like a cage-free, free range, all that really, is a little bit more of a marketing ploy than it is as far as substance and nutrition levels in the actual product. Now with eggs, what I always do is go for the pastured eggs. And what that means is that the chicken was just out to pasture, right? It was just operating in its environment, and then it was laying eggs on its own volition when it felt like it was the right time to do so under less stress. And, maybe there's nothing to it, maybe there's something to it, but for me, I guess it helps me sleep better at night knowing that I'm not contributing to the mistreatment of animals. Even though I am consuming them, I'm trying to be as conscious as possible in my efforts to do that. Because at the end of the day, guys, it's not so much what you eat, it's what you eats, right? So if I'm eating cows, but the cow that I'm eating has been doped up on antibiotics, steroids, corn, soy, and only raised to 6 months until it was big enough to get slaughtered, you better believe that I'm ingesting that stuff now too. I'm getting a indirect dose of those antibiotics and those hormones and the soy and the corn. Conversely, if the cow was out to pasture, got to live a little bit longer of a life, fully matured naturally, was fed off grass under the sun, didn't need antibiotics because it was in its natural habitat and environment and wasn't getting sick, then when I eat that cow, now I'm not going to be ingesting all the other crap. I'm only getting the stuff that nature intended. And I think that over the course of one's lifetime, listen, if you were to go out and you're starving and you just want to get some In-N-Out burger or whatever any one time, that's not the problem. Any isolated incident isn't the issue. But when we think about our lifestyle and a daily practice of nutrition and health, it compounds on itself, right? So what you eat every single day over the course of your lifetime is going to have an impact on your health at the end of the day. And so the less I can get, the less foreign bodies I can get in my system, I think at the end of the day, the better, right? So in other words, another thing that I would encourage you guys to consider is like when you take a protein supplement. So there's no shortage of protein powders out there. What I look for in a good protein powder is 100% whey protein isolate. And the reason for that is because whey, it just has the closest amino acid profile to our own muscle tissue. I mean, it essentially is what our muscle tissues are made out of. And so it's a direct match, biologically speaking, and will help facilitate muscle growth, right? But I take it a step further, and you're going to see all these brands that are promoting, bananas and cream or cookies, strawberries and chocolate and vanilla. Sure, there are definitely some good natural ingredients out there to give it a little more flavor. But again, a lot of these products out there have a ton of artificial sweeteners, a ton of artificial coloring, preservatives, and all that crap. Now, if it's just a one-off situation where I'm just going to get a scoop of protein at some place that it's not my own, I'm just buying it because it's convenient, but it's just a one-time thing, I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's the product that I'm bringing into my home and I'm taking every single day, I want it as minimal ingredient as possible. So I want only 100% whey protein isolate, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial coloring, just the protein, baby. And it doesn't taste great, I'm not going to lie to you, but it really kind of just is a neutral taste. You get used to it over time, but I rest assured that like all those subparticles and trace particles that are in all the other crap with preservatives and artificial flavoring and coloring, I'm not taking on a daily basis. And so at the end of my days, you never know. I mean, I don't know what that equates to. Maybe 10 more years, maybe 15 more years. Who knows? What does disease come from? What does cancer come from? I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you that. All I know is that it makes sense to me to keep my diet as clean and as bland as far as the stuff that I take on a daily basis goes as possible. And now, of course, on the weekends, if you want to go out and I want to have a nice dinner at a restaurant or eat a bowl of pasta at a nice Italian place, who cares? That's what life is all about. And those are the exceptions, not the rules. But the rule, for me at least, is Monday through Friday, it's all business. And I treat my diet as I do anything else in my life with my fitness routine or my work, and I try to stay as diligent as possible. And guess what? It kind of makes the quote-unquote cheat days or the days that I go out and just have a meal with friends or I go out and catch happy hour so much more enjoyable because I didn't spoil it by prematurely indulging myself with artificial sweeteners or foods that have preservatives in it or over consumption of candy or sweets or junk food or whatever. And I think that gives me at least a little peace of mind when the weekend does come around where I can go out and have some fun guilt-free. So I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. That's kind of like more lifestyle, personal window into how I operate. But going back to the original topic of this episode, as far as being a conscious carnivore goes, I don't think that we need to shy away from eating meat, but I definitely think that we should be a little bit more aware of the type that we're getting in. And if you're like the client that I met with earlier today and only like the idea of eating meat once a day, then I definitely suggest a high quality protein shake that you can supplement in a couple times a day in addition to that piece of meat that you're eating. And then when you do have the choice to make on what meat you're going to be taking in, pay attention to the labeling. Make sure that you're not just getting some factory farm piece of meat, but you're actually getting something that was raised locally, humanely, and preferably grass-fed and or pastured. Okay? So there we go, guys. And that presupposes that you're also getting a big leafy green salad in every single day, keeping your carbohydrates around 25% of your total calorie intake, right? You do that, guys, and that is the winning recipe. I promise you great things. I've seen it happen for years and years and years on myself and on the clients that I work with. Simple little steps like that can really go a long way in the long run, guys. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Of course, as always, guys, head on over to pcodenation.com. Opt into my free strength course. You got nothing to lose. It's free. It's a 7-day email course, and I just basically am going to send you a series of webinars that I've recorded everything from about 5 minutes to 30 minutes on how to build your own 12-week strength conditioning program, my top 5 supplement picks, and why, most importantly, some sample nutrition diets and a sample week of exercises, and then just some general philosophy on strength and conditioning. You got nothing to lose, guys. That's a great value because it's free. Even if it wasn't free, it would still be worth your time. And then while you're over there, you can either opt into my free weekend workout or take a peek at the first chapter of my book, The Performance Code. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I will talk to you all next week. This is Justin, over and out.
Thanks so much for listening to The Performance Code, the official podcast of pcodenation.com with your host, Justin Schollard, online at pcodenation.com. We'll catch you next time.